So I'm going to show you what I call the Mondrian Grid method for easily putting together multiple image and text into a document for presentation. So what I have here is Photoshop. Now I know this may not look like Photoshop to some of you. This is actually Photoshop Elements. I do a lot of my work in Procreate and I just use Photoshop. You can also use InDesign to do this. Anything that will allow you to move grids, uh, guides from the side over to make columns. So this one, I basically have an 11 by 17 document. The lower portion of this, minus the header, is actually pretty much the same proportion as a 16 by 9 video monitor proportion. So that means that this will pretty much fit right onto a video monitor screen. Its printout size is 11 by 17, 300 dpi, and 8.5 by 14 is very close to that. So if you need to scale down, 8.5 by 11 is not. It is much more square. So what I do is I'm starting with, I want a 1/4 of an inch margin on each side. I'm setting up a 1/2 an inch margin at the bottom. And I'm going to start by finding the center of the entire document, which we're gonna, if this is 17, then it's 8.5. And so I basically click and drag these over. If I can get them to work. There we go. To the center, drag my rules over. These were set to black, but usually they come in as just a light blue. And then I'm going to establish this rectangle, which shows me from the margin over to here. And so I'm starting with side margin, which is a 1/4 of an inch. Here's my center. And then the next thing I have to do is to figure out what are the image space, because the way this works is that you can allow spaces in the center between the images, or you can actually butt them or have them touch. So what I did here is to have um, this yellow one, and then I'm going to go to the next one, which is the part that I would move around. So for instance, I would take what this was originally, I would take it over to the center. So I'm just going to expand it out so you see it as the same size as the original one, which is here. I take it over to the center, and I know that I want to come in 1/8 of an inch, or you can see it as sort of two little notches. Each one of those notches would be about 1/8 of an inch. So I do that on each side. And that gets me to the spaces between images. So now I can just move this. I can put my guide in right there. I can move it to the other side and bring the guide over to make this guide. And then I do all of them that way so that these are all fitting the same way. I usually allow a 1/2 an inch at the bottom so things, especially text, doesn't just sort of hug the bottom. The other reason for the 1/4 of an inch is that if you are printing, this is the margin that's going to show up. So it might cut off your image. So you don't want text out in that area. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to show you, and I'll turn these off, is basically how to take these images that you want to work with and do this mathematically. So if I have these 4 columns, that's really the best because then I can work with it in mathematical divisions of 4 or 8 or two or whatever I want to do. So for instance, I could bring this one to there. I have an image. If I want, let's say I want the corners to touch, I could do another one that maybe is only to there. I have space for text by doing this. I could have one long one that maybe comes like this. I could have small ones that maybe are just small little shapes. in here. And it is kind of important, and I usually bring a guide down from here so that, and you want to set this for view to snap to guides. So that way, when I bring these up, they snap right to the top and they are top aligned, which is very important to have alignments. Now here, this one, I could make the margin bigger. And then also, I want to have this one top aligned here. So I'm going to establish, let's say, that same 1/4 of an inch space. That way I can take this bottom one and snap to guide. I can do the same thing in here. Now, the other advantage of having the centers as well is that I can take these over and literally connect them at the center. And now you see I have space for text. It just depends how I want to do this. I can also make these a whole group of smaller images, although it kind of works to have one feature image. And so I tend to want to have the feature image. Let's say a feature image is maybe like this. So you see I'm creating the alignment here again. And maybe the other images are much, much smaller. And if I want them even smaller still, I'm going to divide this in half. So that if I have these images, I can also take one here and it's essentially the same. So mathematically, this is just so much easier to drop things in. It's also a lot easier to drop in text. So the text would align right where I was. And I'm just going to write dummy text and set it for left align. And I could just run it in here. I'm doing snap to guide again. Let's say I want to bring it down to here. I want to have alignments in as many ways as I can. It might look better if this image top aligns with this. So this whole idea of creating alignments is really important. So you see the bottom here is not aligned. And so I'm going to bring that down until it does, snap to guide, and then come back over and bring this one also snap to guide. And if I have others that are in other places, so what I don't want is this kind of randomness where it's just neither nor. It's mathematically, it's not there. So since I've set up columns of 4, I want to be consistent. I can do quarters, I can do half, and they would need to be aligned. I can take this down, align it with this. So I call this the Mondrian method, and I'm going to put it in here. So if you don't know how to spell it, as soon as I find my cursor, Mondrian as here. So this is Mondrian the painter, and I call it a Mondrian grid. It works very well, and it's a very mathematical kind of thing. Now, one of the reasons I put the feature image over here is that Western, we read left to right. And so that's how I'm seeing it. Now, I might have multiple pages maybe that face, and so then I have to figure out where's the feature image on each side of the pages that face. I can also design this as a 2-page facing page document where maybe the gutter, as it would be known, is here. In that case, I can't have this coming as far over as it is. If I have images randomly kind of crossing over like this, it gets weird. So that's why the grid works so well. Okay, and I'm going to make a copy of this document and make it available.